I never thought I'd find myself in this position, sharing my story for the world to see, but here we are. My name is Greg, and I'm a 35-year-old guy who recently discovered that my wife, Lisa, the woman I thought I knew inside and out, has been cheating on me. I guess I should start by giving you a glimpse into our life before all hell broke loose. Lisa and I met in college. She was everything I thought I wanted in a partner: smart, ambitious, and drop-dead gorgeous. We fell in love quickly, and I thought we were on the fast track to a perfect life together. We got married 3 years later, and for a while, things were great. Sure, there were the usual bumps in the road, but nothing that couldn't be resolved with a little communication, or so I thought. Lately, though, things started to feel different. It was subtle at first, you know. The little things that make you raise an eyebrow. She began working late more often, claiming that her job at the marketing agency was demanding more of her time. I believed her at first. After all, she was always the one pushing herself to succeed, and I admired her for it. But then came the odd text messages. I'd see her scrolling through her phone, her expression shifting from focused to nervous in a heartbeat when I entered the room. There were nights when she'd leave the house wearing that flirty red dress I had bought her for our anniversary. I'd ask where she was headed, and she'd shoot me a dismissive look, saying she was just going out with friends. Friends that I had never heard of before, mind you. And the little comments she made about her coworkers, always emphasizing how attractive they were, didn't sit right with me. As days turned to weeks, the unease in my stomach grew. I began to do something I had never considered before. I started snooping. The first time I opened her computer, I felt like I was breaking some sacred code. But that's how it is when you're desperate. I found her Instagram account open, and as I scrolled through the pictures, I stumbled upon a private message that made my heart drop. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you." Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. My mind raced with confusion and anger. I had never seen that name before, Jake. I felt sick. I had to know more. I spent the next few days trying to piece everything together. I followed her one evening when she said she was meeting her friends for drinks. It was one of those cold Thursday nights in November, the kind that makes you question your life choices. I parked a block away from the trendy bar she had mentioned, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited. What I saw that night shattered me. It felt like I was watching a twisted movie unfold before my eyes. Lisa walked into the bar arm in arm with none other than Jake, the guy from the message. They were laughing, flirting, and leaning into each other like they were the only two people in the world. It was clear that my wife was not just having drinks with a friend. I sat there, frozen. The betrayal was palpable, burning in my throat. The drive home was a blur. My mind was racing, replaying every moment in my head. I couldn't confront her just yet. I needed a plan. I had to expose this affair, but I needed to do it right. I decided to gather more evidence. Over the next week, I discreetly started tracking her movements. I thought about the times she mentioned meeting friends who never seemed to appear and the late nights at work that now felt like lies. With each covert mission, I was more convinced that the woman I loved had become someone else entirely. I had to confront her. But how? I needed to catch her in the act, to make her feel the weight of her betrayal. It was time to turn the tables. As I plotted my strategy, I felt a strange mix of anger and tragedy. A part of me wanted to scream at her for all the lies, while another part wanted to understand why she had chosen to cheat. So there I was, in this web of deceit, feeling like a fool. But little did Lisa know, I was about to expose her carefully crafted facade for what it truly was. I had the perfect plan in mind, a way to catch her and reveal her lies. But first I had to gather my strength for the confrontation. After all, the truth was coming, and I was ready to face it head-on. The nights that followed felt like I was living in a shadowy nightmare. I barely slept, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. Each time Lisa came home late, a part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand to know where she had been. But I knew that would be a reaction born of shock and anger, not one that would lead to the truth. Instead, I kept my cool, becoming a spectator in my own life, gathering my strength for the inevitable confrontation. I spent hours on end devising my plan. I decided to set up a situation where I could catch Lisa in the act without her suspecting a thing. One evening, I told her I had plans to go out with friends, pretending to be just a little too eager to give her the night free. "You deserve some time with your friends," I said, trying to sound supportive. She beamed at me, completely unaware of the storm that was brewing beneath my calm facade. The next day, I contacted a private investigator. I needed someone who could tail Lisa, who could capture her in the act without drawing attention. I handed over a few $100s, money I never thought I'd spend on something like this, and waited, my heart racing each time my phone buzzed with a notification. By the time Saturday rolled around, I had my evidence. The Pi sent me photos of Lisa and Jake at a trendy restaurant, their hands intertwined as they leaned in for a kiss. It felt surreal, like I had stepped into a movie plot where the main character's life was in shambles. I stared at the images, each one puncturing my heart like a dagger, and yet a part of me felt a strange sense of empowerment. I had the power to expose her, to confront her with the undeniable truth. That night, I decided to put my plan into action. I came home a little earlier than expected, casually dropping my things at the door as if everything was completely normal. I found Lisa in the living room, lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I entered, a smile gracing her lips. "Hey, you're home early. How was your night?" she asked, her voice deceptively sweet. "Oh, it was fine," I said, keeping my tone even. I didn't really feel like staying out much, just needed to recharge. As I moved towards the kitchen, I felt a knot in my stomach. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I needed to remain composed, not let her see the storm brewing inside me. But the urge to confront her was strong, and I knew it was time. I turned back to her, my heart pounding. "Lisa, we need to talk." Her smile faltered slightly, and I could see her mind racing, trying to piece together what was about to happen. "Talk about what?" she replied, feigning innocence. "About you and Jake," I said, the name tasting bitter on my tongue. Her expression shifted immediately to one of defense. "What do you mean?" she asked, crossing her arms in a protective gesture. "I know about the affair, Lisa," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. "I saw you with him. I have pictures." The color drained from her face, and for a moment she looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Greg, I can explain." She blurted out, her voice rising a notch. "Explain what? How you can lie to my face while you're with him?" I shot back, feeling anger surge through me. She took a breath, desperately trying to regain her composure. "It's not what you think. Jake is just a friend. We were talking about work and I—" "Save it," I interrupted, feeling the fire of betrayal ignite within me. "You think I'd buy that? You were all over him, Lisa. You were kissing him. I have proof." Suddenly, the weight of the confrontation hung heavy in the air. Lisa's facade began to crumble, and I could see the guilt wash over her. "Greg, please, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Things have been so hard between us." Hard. I couldn't believe my ears. "You think cheating is the solution to our problems. You didn't even try to talk to me about it." Her excuses continued, but I was no longer listening. I could feel the disappointment and anger bubbling up inside me. "You've shattered our trust, Lisa. I can't just pretend everything is okay." After this, as she began to cry, I felt a mix of emotions. I was angry, hurt, and deeply saddened by what had transpired. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the life we had built together, and now it felt like it was crumbling right before my eyes. I left the room, needing space to think. I paced the kitchen, my mind racing with thoughts about how we got here. The emotional impact of her actions weighed heavily on me. I loved her once deeply, but now that love felt tainted. I thought about how naive I had been to ignore the signs, how I had convinced myself that everything was fine when, in reality, our relationship had been on the brink for months. The anger I felt was intense, but there was also a deep sadness that washed over me. The woman I loved had betrayed me, and it felt like a piece of my heart had been ripped away. I needed to decide what to do next. Would I try to work through this, or was it time to walk away for good? I felt lost, alone, and utterly heartbroken. Time seemed to stretch in that chaotic moment after the confrontation, as I grappled with the whirlwind of emotions crashing over me. I felt like I was standing on a precipice, staring into an abyss that was both terrifying and oddly liberating. Honestly, I had no idea what to do next. Should I fight for our marriage, or should I start planning my escape from a relationship that had turned toxic? Lisa sobbed in the living room, her mascara running down her cheeks like the remnants of our shattered life together. I could hear her muffled cries, a blend of regret and panic that only fueled the storm brewing inside me. I tried to tune her out, focusing instead on my own thoughts. "Why did you do it?" I finally said, my voice breaking the suffocating silence. I needed her to answer, not just to find closure, but to truly understand the woman I thought I knew. "I don't know," she replied, her voice trembling. "It just happened. I felt so disconnected from you, Greg. I was lonely. Lonely." That word struck me like a slap in the face. We had built our life together, shared dreams and plans, yet she had sought comfort in the arms of another man. It felt like a betrayal that went beyond the physical. It was a betrayal of our emotional bond, of the promises we had made to each other. "Lonely," I echoed, the disbelief evident in my voice. "You never once mentioned it. You never talked to me about how you felt. Instead, you chose to cheat." Her silence spoke volumes, and I could see the guilt etched across her face. I know. I was stupid, Greg. I thought I could handle it. I thought it was just a fling, just someone to talk to, but then it spiraled out of control." "Spiraled out of control," I scoffed, incredulous. "You think this is just some kind of mistake? You were kissing him, Lisa. You were flirting with him. This isn't just a fling. This is a full-blown affair." "I'm so sorry," she pleaded, reaching out to me as if she could bridge the emotional chasm that had opened between us. "I'll do anything to make it right. Please, just give me another chance." But how could I? I felt the weight of the betrayal suffocate me. The love I once held for her felt overshadowed by the sheer intensity of the pain I was experiencing. I had trusted her completely, and she had shattered that trust into a million pieces. "I don't think I can do that," I finally said, my voice steady but filled with sorrow. "I need time to think, time to process this." I walked out of the room and headed to the kitchen, desperate for space. I leaned against the countertop, trying to collect my thoughts. Each breath was difficult, like I was inhaling shards of glass instead of air. I had loved Lisa with everything I had, and now it felt like I was grieving the loss of a future I had envisioned with her. As the hours passed, I reflected on our relationship. The good times, the laughter, the dreams we shared, they all felt tainted now. How could I ever look at her the same way again? I thought about the life we had built, the home we shared, and how quickly it all seemed to unravel. I felt like I was standing on a tightrope, teetering between love and resentment. Eventually, Lisa approached me again, her eyes puffy and red. "Greg, please," she said, her voice softer now. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you." "Yet you did," I replied, the bitterness creeping into my tone. "You made choices, Lisa. You had the option to talk to me, to tell me how you felt. Instead, you chose to betray me." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I could fix things without burdening you." "Fix things by cheating?" I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "That's not fixing anything, that's making it worse." "Maybe I can prove to you that I can change," she suggested, her desperation palpable. "I love you, Greg. I don't want this to end." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of something, maybe hope, maybe denial. Did she really love me? Or was that just another line to soften the blow of her betrayal? "Love isn't just words, Lisa. It's actions," I replied, my voice steady. "And right now, your actions tell a different story." As our conversation dragged on into the night, I knew I had a decision to make. I could either let her back into my life or cut her out for good. I had to think about what I wanted, and that was a dizzying realization. I went to bed that night feeling empty. The pain was palpable, like a weight pressing against my chest. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversation in my mind. I felt like I was caught in a limbo between past and future, between the love I once had and the betrayal that now defined our relationship. In the days that followed, I found myself spiraling into a cycle of reflection and doubt. I thought about the trust that had been shattered, the future we had planned, and the possibility of forgiveness. Would I ever be able to look at her the same way again? Did I even want to? As the sun rose each day, I realized I needed to make a choice one way or another. It was time to decide whether to fight for my marriage or walk away from a relationship that had become tainted by deceit. The thought was overwhelming, but deep down I knew. I had to face the music. It was time to confront my feelings and choose my path forward. The days turned into a blur of confusion and heartache. I found myself oscillating between moments of anger and deep sadness, grappling with the reality of Lisa's betrayal while trying to figure out my next move. I was living in a constant state of turmoil, and the emotional weight felt like a heavy blanket smothering me. I decided to take a few days off work, needing the space to process everything. I didn't want to be around people who might ask about my personal life, and I definitely didn't want to put on a brave face while I was crumbling inside. Instead, I spent my time alone in our home, wandering from room to room, memories flooding me with each step. The pictures on the walls felt like ghosts of our past, moments captured in time that now seemed so far removed from the reality I was facing. During this solitude, I received numerous messages from Lisa. At first, I ignored her texts, not wanting to engage in the emotional tug-of-war she was trying to initiate. But on the third day, I felt compelled to respond. I typed out a message. "We need to talk, I can't keep going like this." Her response came quickly. "I want to meet. I'll do anything to make this right, Greg, please." I agreed to meet her at a cafe we used to frequent, one that held a million happy memories. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I felt like I owed it to myself to hear her out one last time. As I drove to the cafe, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. Would I see the woman I loved or the stranger who had betrayed me? When I arrived, Lisa was already there, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying. She looked fragile, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But that sympathy was quickly eclipsed by anger and hurt. I had to remind myself why we were here. "Greg," she began, her voice shaking. "Thank you for coming." I nodded, but the silence that followed felt deafening. I could see her struggling to find the right words, and I was painfully aware that I held all the power. "This conversation. Why are we here, Lisa?" I finally asked, wanting to cut through the tension. "I wanted to talk about what happened. I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, biting her lip as if to hold back her emotions. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I never wanted to hurt you. You're my everything." "Really?" I replied, skepticism lacing my words. "You say that now, but your actions tell a different story." "I know," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I messed up. I thought the affair was just a distraction from our problems, but it made everything worse. I can't believe I jeopardized our marriage for someone who doesn't matter." "Doesn't matter. You kissed him, Lisa. You spent time with him. You chose him over us," I shot back, my anger bubbling to the surface. "I didn't choose him. I chose to escape, and that was a mistake," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I realize now that I should have fought for you instead of running to someone else. I was scared, Greg. I felt like we were drifting apart and I didn't know how to fix it, but now I see that I was an idiot." For a moment I felt a flicker of something, maybe hope or maybe just the remnants of love I still held for her. "So what do you want?" I asked, my voice softer now. "To fix this, to start over?" "Yes, I want us to go to couples therapy. I want to work on our issues together," she said, her eyes pleading. "I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." The idea of therapy was tempting, but I couldn't shake the lingering doubt in my mind. "And how do I know this isn't just another ploy to keep me around?" I questioned. "How do I know you won't just fall back into your old patterns?" Lisa paused, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "I understand why you're skeptical, and you have every right to be, but I'm willing to do anything. I'll even give you full access to my phone, my social media, whatever you need to feel secure. I'll prove that I want to change." I took a deep breath, considering her words. On one hand, I still felt an attachment to her, a longing for the love we once shared. On the other, I knew I couldn't ignore the betrayal that loomed over us like a dark cloud. I realized that rebuilding trust would take time, and I had to be honest with myself about whether I was willing to go down that road. "I don't know if I can just jump back in, Lisa," I said slowly. "I need to think about this, really think about it. Rebuilding trust isn't just about therapy, it's about actions, consistency, and time." "I understand," she whispered, looking defeated. "But please don't close the door on us. I love you, Greg. I want to make this right." As we sat there in that cafe, surrounded by chatter and laughter, I felt like we were in our own little bubble of despair. I knew I had a difficult choice ahead of me. Could I really forgive her? Could I trust her again after everything that had happened? I left the cafe that day with more questions than answers. The conversation had opened a door, but whether I would walk through it remained to be seen. I would need time to process everything, to weigh my options. The thought of walking away from our marriage was daunting, but so was the idea of staying in a relationship built on shattered trust. In the days that followed, I began to reflect on what I truly wanted. I sought advice from friends who had been through similar situations, trying to gauge my options. Some encouraged me to give her a chance, to see if she could prove her commitment to change. Others suggested that I take a step back and reevaluate my own needs and desires. Ultimately, I realized that the decision was mine alone to make. There were no easy answers, no quick fixes. I had to confront my own feelings, my own pain, and make a choice that would define the next chapter of my life. The question was, could I find a way to move forward, whether that was together with Lisa or apart? The following weeks were emotionally taxing. I spent a lot of time alone, processing everything that had transpired between Lisa and me. I found myself oscillating between anger and the lingering affection I still felt for her. Each day, I would wake up with a heavy heart, staring at the ceiling and questioning whether it was worth it to try and salvage our marriage, or if I should cut my losses and move on. I began attending therapy myself, a decision that felt empowering amid the chaos. I needed someone to help me untangle the mess of emotions swirling in my mind. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Harper, encouraged me to explore my feelings about trust and betrayal, and to consider what I truly wanted for my future. "Greg," she said during one session, "forgiveness is a personal journey. You have to decide if you can genuinely forgive Lisa and whether you believe she can change. It's important to protect your heart, but it's also important to consider your own happiness." Her words resonated with me. I realized that while I could hold on to my anger and hurt, it wasn't going to help me heal. I needed to focus on myself first, to understand what I wanted moving forward. I had to confront the fact that, regardless of Lisa's actions, my happiness should not be solely tied to her. Meanwhile, Lisa was doing everything she could to show her commitment to change. She texted me frequently, expressing her love, sending screenshots of her therapy sessions, even canceling plans with friends to prioritize our relationship. I could see she was trying, but I struggled to embrace it. Each time I saw her efforts, there was a voice in my head reminding me of her infidelity, a constant reminder that the trust between us had been irrevocably broken. One day, I decided to invite Lisa over to talk. I felt it was time to lay everything out on the table, to confront the reality of our situation. As I prepared for her arrival, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. I wanted to be honest but fair, to express my feelings without placing all the blame on her. When she arrived, I could see that she was hopeful, her eyes shining with anticipation. I offered her a seat and took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation ahead. "Lisa," I began, "I appreciate everything you've done to try and make things right, but I need to be honest about how I feel. This hasn't been easy for me, and I can't just overlook what happened." "I understand," she said, her voice soft. "I never expected you to forgive me overnight. I just want you to know that I'm committed to making things better." "Commitment is one thing, but I need to know if I can trust you again," I replied, my heart pounding. "Right now, I'm struggling with that. I feel like I'm stuck in this limbo, and I don't know how to move forward." "I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild that trust, Greg," she insisted, her sincerity shining through. "I know I messed up, and I'm willing to put in the work. Please just give me a chance." As I listened to her, I found myself torn between my lingering love for her and my desire to protect my own heart. I thought about the life we had built together, the future we had once envisioned, and the love that had initially brought us together. But the betrayal loomed large, casting a shadow over every fond memory. "I need time, Lisa," I said finally, my voice firm. "I need to figure out what I really want. I need to know if I can truly forgive you." I could see her heart sink, the hope draining from her eyes. "I understand," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. I just wish things were different." "Me too," I said softly, feeling a strange mix of sadness and resolve. That night after Lisa left, I reflected on our conversation. I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I didn't want to make a rash decision out of anger or hurt. I wanted to make a choice that would lead to my happiness, whether that meant working through our issues together or moving on. Over the next few days, I took time to think and reflect. I started journaling about my feelings and the potential paths in front of me. I thought about the possibility of rebuilding our life together, but I also considered the strength it would require and the emotional toll it could take. I began to notice something important. I was wrestling with the idea of forgiveness, but more importantly, I was grappling with the concept of self-worth. I started asking myself questions like, what do I deserve? What does happiness look like to me? Through this journey, I realized that regardless of the choices Lisa had made, I had to prioritize my own happiness. If I chose to stay, I needed to see consistent effort from her over time. But if I chose to leave, I needed to embrace the idea of new beginnings, even if that felt daunting. With each passing day, I felt more in control of my emotions, more empowered to make a decision that would serve my best interests. I finally reached a point where I knew I needed to set boundaries and communicate my needs clearly to Lisa. One evening, I called her and asked her to come over again. I felt ready to share my thoughts, to finally lay everything out on the table. This would be the conversation to define our relationship going forward, and I needed to be honest about what I wanted. No more dancing around the truth, no more avoiding the hard conversations. As I waited for her to arrive, I felt a surge of determination. Whatever happened next, I was prepared to face it head-on. It was time for me to take charge of my life, to decide if I wanted to rebuild or if I was ready to walk away. When Lisa arrived, I could sense a shift in the atmosphere. There was a nervous energy surrounding us, a palpable tension that felt heavy in the air. I knew this conversation would be pivotal. It felt like we were standing on the edge of a precipice, and the direction we would take after this moment could change everything. "Hey," she said softly, stepping inside. I gestured for her to sit, my heart pounding. "Thanks for coming," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "I've been doing a lot of thinking and I wanted to talk about where we stand." Her eyes widened slightly and I could see the flicker of hope mingled with apprehension. "Okay," she said, her voice a whisper. "I'm ready to listen." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words heavy on my chest. "First off, I want to acknowledge how hard this has been for both of us. I can't ignore the pain and betrayal I felt when I found out about the affair, and it still stings. But I also recognize that we've both made mistakes." "I'm so sorry, Greg," she interrupted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you. I was so foolish." "I know," I said gently, holding up a hand. "But please let me finish. What I want to talk about is what happens next. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what I want for my life moving forward." "Okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I could see the fear in her expression, but I pressed on. "I believe in second chances, but I also believe in protecting myself. I'm not even sure if I can trust you right now, and that's something we need to address before moving forward. I need to know that you're committed to doing the hard work to rebuild that trust." "I will, Greg," she said earnestly. "I'm already in therapy, and I want to continue going. I want to understand why I made those choices and how I can change. I'll show you that I can be someone you can trust again." I nodded, appreciating her willingness to take responsibility. "That's important, but I also need time. I can't just jump back into this relationship without knowing that things will be different. We need to establish boundaries and set expectations." "What do you mean?" she asked, tilting her head, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "I think we should go to couples therapy together," I proposed. "It could help us communicate better and work through our issues, but I also think we need some space to heal individually. I'd like to take a break from physical intimacy for a while to really focus on rebuilding our emotional connection first." Her face fell for a moment and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I understand why, but it's hard to hear. I want to make things right, and that means being close to you." "I know," I said softly, "but trust isn't rebuilt through closeness. It's rebuilt through consistency and understanding. I need to know I can rely on you, and I need to see you put in the effort over time." After a moment, she nodded, wiping away her tears. "I can do that, Greg. I will do that. I just want a chance to prove to you that I can be better." "Thank you," I said, feeling a flicker of hope spark within me. "I want this to work, but I need to be cautious. The love we had deserves to be honored, but we need to face our realities first." As we continued talking, I felt a sense of resolve settle over me. I realized that while the road ahead would be challenging, I was open to exploring the possibility of redemption. I had laid my cards on the table, and now it was up to us both to take the necessary steps to mend what had been broken. Over the next few weeks, as we began attending therapy together, I noticed a shift in our dynamic. Lisa was earnest in her efforts, actively participating in sessions and openly discussing her feelings. It was refreshing to see her vulnerability, and it prompted me to open up as well. We began to peel back the layers of our relationship, confronting the issues that had been festering beneath the surface. Through our work, I began to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. It was as if she was resurfacing from the depths of betrayal, and I was cautiously optimistic. We gradually established new boundaries, reaffirming our commitment to honesty and communication. But as the weeks turned into months, I also recognized that trust was not rebuilt in one fell swoop. It took time, consistency, and a willingness to engage in difficult conversations. There were moments of doubt and frustration, but there were also moments of genuine connection, shared laughter, long talks, and vulnerable admissions that reminded us both of why we had fallen in love in the first place. Ultimately, it wasn't about forgetting the past or erasing the pain. It was about creating a new narrative, one that incorporated our struggles and growth. While the scars of betrayal would always linger, I learned that they didn't have to define our future. As I reflect on this journey, I realize that the experience taught me a profound lesson about resilience and self-worth. I learned the importance of standing up for myself, of not accepting less than I deserved. I also learned that love can be complicated, that it can endure even in the face of betrayal, but it requires effort from both partners. If anyone finds themselves in a similar situation, betrayed and questioning their future, my advice is simple: prioritize your own happiness and self-worth. Take time to heal and don't rush into decisions. Communication is key, and don't be afraid to set boundaries. Sometimes, rebuilding can lead to a stronger foundation than what was there before. As for Lisa and me, we continue to work through our challenges one step at a time, and while the future is uncertain, we are navigating it together. It's a journey, but it's one I'm willing to take, because in the end, love is worth the fight.